We live in a world where the idea of enough has disappeared. More likes, more money, more success, more hustle, more upgrades, more of everything except peace. And yet, nearly 2,000 years ago, a man who ruled the Roman Empire, arguably the most powerful man in the world at the time, wrote something startling in his private journal. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. That man was Marcus Aurelius. And that sentence might just be the most radical idea you hear all year. Not because it's complicated, but because it goes against everything modern life tells you. This is not just ancient wisdom. It's a mirror held up to your thoughts, your habits, and the quiet ways you sabotage your own peace. Today, we're going deep into this one quote, what it really means, why it still matters, and how you can apply it in your own chaotic, overstimulated, endlessly distracted life. Because if Marcus is right, then maybe the life you're chasing is one mindset away. Before we talk about the quote, we have to talk about the man. Marcus Aurelius wasn't a guru on a mountaintop. He wasn't a monk in isolation. He was the emperor of Rome, ruling from 161 to 180 AD. He controlled an empire that stretched across continents. He led armies, managed politics, endured plagues, faced constant war, and suffered personal heartbreak, like the deaths of his children and friends. He didn't live in peace. He created peace within chaos. What's remarkable is that he didn't write Meditations, his now famous book, to be published. He wasn't trying to inspire anyone. These were private reflections, notes to himself, thoughts he scribbled in the quiet moments between leading a nation and surviving its storms. That's why it feels so intimate, so honest. There's no performance, no pretending, just a man wrestling with his mind and trying to remain virtuous, rational, and calm when everything around him was falling apart. So when Marcus says, very little is needed to make a happy life, he's not being poetic. He's speaking from the battlefield, from the throne, from grief, from wisdom, and more than anything, from experience. Let's take the quote slowly. Very little is needed to make a happy life. Pause. That's already a challenge to our culture. We're conditioned to believe that happiness requires big things, big accomplishments, big bank accounts, big houses, big recognition. But Marcus says the opposite. You don't need more, you need less. Or rather, you already have what you need. You've just been trained to overlook it. This is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. The idea that fulfillment doesn't come from acquisition. It comes from alignment. Aligning your expectations with reality, your desires with virtue, your mind with nature. What does Marcus say you actually need? The basics: food, shelter, health, friendship, and clarity of thought. Not a perfect life, not a painless one, but a principled one. Then comes the second part of the quote. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. This is the real revolution. Marcus doesn't say happiness is in your circumstances, or in your luck, or in the people around you. He says it's in your thinking, not what happens to you, but how you frame what happens. This is more than just a mindset shift. It's a complete redefinition of power. Because if your happiness depends on things outside your control, you'll always be a slave to them. But if your happiness comes from within, if it's rooted in how you choose to interpret the world, you become unshakable. Not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger. Let's be honest. Modern life is the exact opposite of this teaching. Everything you interact with, from social media to advertising to even the way we educate kids, says, you are not enough. But if you just buy, chase, or achieve this one more thing, then maybe you'll finally be okay. It's a treadmill of desire, and the speed keeps increasing. We scroll through highlight reels of people we've never met, comparing our behind the scenes to their filters. We overwork, overconsume, overthink. We treat peace as something we'll buy once we've suffered enough. But Marcus Aurelius had everything the modern world is chasing: status, wealth, admiration, control, and still, he believed none of it could bring lasting happiness. That tells you something? It tells you the problem isn't your lack of success. It's your over-attachment to it. The problem isn't the size of your house. It's the clutter in your mind. The problem isn't your job or your relationship. It's the stories you tell yourself about them, and unless those stories change, your happiness never will. Marcus wasn't alone in this way of thinking. He was part of a lineage, Stoic philosophers who believed the goal of life wasn't to feel good, but to be good. Not to escape suffering, but to meet it with wisdom. The Stoics taught that there are only two domains in life: things you can control and things you cannot, and the only path to peace is to give your full attention to the first and release the second. Think about how many of your anxieties come from things you can't actually control. The future, other people's opinions, the economy, the past. Now imagine redirecting all that energy into your character, your response, your choices, your integrity. That's Stoicism. Not about suppressing emotions, but mastering them. Not about ignoring hardship, but preparing for it. Marcus didn't hope for life to be easy. He trained for it to be hard, and met it with calm. So let's make this practical. Here are 5 habits you can begin applying today to live what Marcus taught. 1. Mental minimalism. Simplify your desires. Marcus says, if you seek tranquility, do less. Or more accurately, do what's essential. We complicate our lives by chasing too many things at once. Try this. At the start of your day, ask, what is essential today? Then cut the rest. Stop measuring your day by how much you accomplished. Start measuring it by how aligned you felt while doing it. 2. Negative visualization. Prepare, don't panic. One of the most powerful Stoic practices is imagining loss, not to be gloomy, but to build resilience. Marcus would reflect on the idea that life is fleeting, that everything you love is temporary. Why? Because when you accept loss in your mind, you stop fearing it in reality. This makes you grateful for what you have, and unshaken when change comes. 3. Voluntary discomfort. Train against fragility. Marcus believed in testing himself, physically, emotionally, mentally. Today, we avoid discomfort at all costs. We microwave everything, fast-forward boredom, swipe away sadness. But Stoicism says, lean into controlled discomfort. Take a cold shower, go without your phone, walk instead of drive, sleep on the floor once in a while. These aren't punishments, they're reminders. You're stronger than your comfort zone. 4. Journaling like Marcus. Every night, Marcus wrote to himself, not for praise, not for a brand, just to reflect. Try this. Each evening, write down, what did I do well? What could I have done better? And what did I learn about myself? This creates what the Stoics called prohairesis, the space between stimulus and response, the ability to choose your reaction. 5. Amor fati, love your fate, perhaps the most radical Stoic idea. Don't just accept life, love it, even the setbacks, even the suffering. Not because they're fun, but because they are your path, your training ground, your invitation to grow. Marcus wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Life isn't happening to you. It's happening for you. if you choose to see it that way. Now, here's the paradox. Marcus had everything people today want: power, luxury, recognition, wealth, respect. And yet, what did he focus on? Self-discipline, humility, perspective, character. He saw how fleeting external things were. He wrote, "Alexander the Great and his mule driver both died and were buried in the same ground." That's not cynicism. That's clarity. Marcus wanted to live while he was alive, not by chasing pleasure, but by cultivating virtue, not by impressing others, but by impressing himself. The real achievement, he believed, wasn't winning the world. It was mastering your mind. Let's bring it full circle. You're watching this not because you want to become a Roman emperor, but because something inside you knows the way you've been thinking isn't working. You're exhausted from chasing the wrong things. You're tired of being ruled by your moods, your cravings, your fears. You want peace, real peace. Marcus Aurelius says that peace begins not with achievement, but with awareness. So right now, ask yourself, what am I overcomplicating? What am I giving power to that doesn't deserve it? What story am I telling myself that I could rewrite? Because here's the truth. You already have what you need. You don't need to be richer, louder, more admired, more perfect. You need only to remember, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. And that, perhaps, is the most powerful empire you could ever rule. If this resonated with you, leave a comment below with the words, "Peace starts in the mind." Subscribe for more philosophy.